Kuf Samach Daled, right. Okay, so we're reading actually, so I was going to say we're on page Tzadi Aleph, so you said we're on Kuf Samach Daled, and that's where we're at. So Kavana Cheres al Birchas Cohanim Krova el Haniskar, so there's another Kavana he wants to bring out, which is similar to what we mentioned before. So here we're coming to the end of this drush. So he said, V'nachsa the Indian, let's go back to what we were talking about. Ki l'chein b'birchas Cohanim yesh shlosh esrei yudin. Now he's going to have to count this out for us so we can see how they go. Keneged shlosh esrei tikuni dikna de Erich Anpin. So he says in the Cohanim, you're going to see if you go through the words, I think he's going to go through them. You can count up that there are 13 yudin. V'yesh ba tesha vavim, then there's also 9 vavs. Keneged Zer Anpin hanikra vav, which refers to the beard of Zer Anpin. Zer Anpin is also called a vav. B'shem, that is the yud ke vav ke is the vav. V'yesh ba tesha tikuni dikna, then he has 9 tikunim on his dikna. V'yesh ba shis hayin, he has 6 hays in these 3 pesukim. Shesh tikuni dikna de nukva hanikras hay tata shel shem avaya, she's called by that name. V'tekavin l'hoyer min shlosh esrei de Erich the tesha the zah. So the kavana here is to shine from Erich into zah, v'tesha de zah l'shes de nukva. So this is another way of analyzing it and looking at it, and let's see the tiv and see what he brings us to understand it. So you say we're on Kuf Samach Daled, so here it is over here on the second column. So v'ata mevar eich shakol shlosha bechinus etikuni dikna. So all the 3 different pesukim are, he says, Shlosha Bechinas Tikuni Dikna de Erich Anpin V'Nukva. So the 3 different levels of Erich Anpin, Zer Anpin, and the Nukva have different aspects to their beards. Nirmazin B'Shlosha Besuga de Birchas Cohanim, so you could put 1 with each one of the brachos. Now we said that before. Ki yesh bechem Shlosha Esrei Yudin, so they have 13 Yudin in those Pasukim. But Pasuk Rishon Yesh Shlosha Yudin, there's 3 in the first Pasuk, which is a Yivarecha, and then Hashem, and then the Yudin Yishmarecha. But Pasuk Hasheni, there are 5 Yudin. So he says that 1 in Yahweh, 1 in Havaya, 1 in Panav, 1 in Elecha, and 1 in Vichoneko. So you count them up. He says there are 5, so that makes 8. But Pasuk Shlisha Yesh Gam Kem Chamesh Yudin, B'Tevis Yisa, Hashem, Panav, Elecha, V'Yasem, and all of those words there are Yudin. Harehem Shlosh Esrei Yudin. So you see there is a count of, this is an inference to the fact that you're working with the 13 in that way, with the Yudin represents the 13 of Erich Anpin, and it's interesting because Yud really would go pretty much with Erich Anpin. So the remez al Shlosha Esrei Tikuni Dikna de Erich Anpin. Benirmaz ba'os Yud. So let's look at the os Yud. The Hiyos Erich Anpin Bekula Erich Arich Elyon Mikulam. So the Yud is going to be the highest one, because Erich Anpin is higher than all of this. Bekutsu Shel Yud, that is, he actually represents the little tip on the letter Yud itself. That is Erich Anpin. The rest of the Yud refers to Chochma or Abba. So the Shem Havaya. So it's the Kutso. It's called the Kutso Shel Yud. V'chein yesh bechem tesha vavim. Now looking at the pasukim again, there are 9 vavim. The Rem is the tesha tikuni dikna de Zer Anpin, which is to teach us about the 9 tikunim in Zer Anpin. Zer Anpin is also a vav. V'nirmazi ba'oz vav ki Zer Anpin nivas ba'oz vav the Shem Havaya, because in the Shem Havaya, and also he's also vav kitzvahs, his midos. Okay, so we'll go on a little bit more, and it says v'chein yesh bechem sheish hayin. There are 6 different hays. The remez, the sheish tikuni dikna de nukva, which is to teach you through the hay. Really is a letter that refers to the nukva most of the time. He's nirmaze ba'os hay ki hanukva nirmezes ba'os achrona de shem b'vaya, because that's the nukva, and you see that there's going to be 5 of those. So now we have a reference from inside just in looking at it in that way. V'yesh l'kaven l'hamshik ha'ara min shlosh esrei tikuni dikna derich. So this is the kavona here now. Is that what you're actually thinking about is the yuds that are in the first pasuk. That's what it seems to be saying. V'yesh l'kaven l'hamshik ha'ara min shlosh esrei tikuni dikna derich, and that's what we're doing. The teisha tikuni dikna dezah. And when that happens, this is your kavana, that you're going to cause Zah to become have a full beard as well. Now the idea of the beard is always the concept of channeling bracha down to the lower world. So if it's only a 9-piece beard, then it's missing something, and so then it's always equivocating between this way or that way, this way or that way. But when you bring in the top part, then it becomes, everything starts turning white, so to speak, just like Erich Anpin. V'inyan kavana zun is boyer la'el, so this kavana, as we say, the pasuk the v'yawim. V'chein lachem sheka'ara metesha tekundi dikna dezah, l'shesha tekundi dikna de nukva. So it's like, a handoff from one guy to the next, kind of the next, that sounds like. So he says then it goes that the dezah, therefore, is going to bring the shefa to the nukva. So that she's all going to have 9 tikunim. So I don't know if what this means, because the inyan with the nukva is 9 months is the gestation period for a child. So now he's saying that to reach the child, you could say this, I'm saying it. So that you could say this, that to reach the ability for her to be able to bring forth the children of brachos, in other words, the brachos, the malachim that carry the brachos, you need the full 9. So where they're at, like he said several times, that we don't know exactly where tikunim are located, but because she's hidden, really. Also, okay, so the shlem is gam hanukva b'teisha tikunim kamoso, so it's also completing the nukva into the 9 tikunim. V'yin kavana zun is boyer la'el b'pasuk the yisa. Okay, so now we'll go to the last piece here, and we're coming to a siyum, and I'm actually a little bit anxious to get into the next part, because I looked at it a little bit, and I know that it's going to be a change, so my mind is a little bit drawn over that way. So, huh?
You may hope, let's talk about the Svardish duchening it during the week. I think it's our next section.
It's, you mean in Vayavor we're talking about?
No, we're talking about we're going to Birchat Cohanim Yimosacho, but that's the next section we're going into. If we're making the siyum now, this is on the Amida of Yom Tovim and Rosh Chodesh.
Okay, you looked ahead. What you're saying is you looked ahead into that?
Yeah.
Okay, I wasn't planning on going there.
No? Okay.
No. I have sent out to you a Rishash Siddur.
Okay.
Okay, so with getting into the Rishash and using the Rishash is a whole other thing. And there's lots of other things preliminary to that we need to know. So over here that we learned the inyan, these are 2 inyanim that go together. And instead of, when you get to the Rishash, that you're talking about the practicality of how he depicts all the different things. But we have to know the different things that he's trying to depict first. That's what I'm trying to do. If it wasn't clear before, so we're going to be learning in the Sefer Vayavor. That's where we're going after this.
Okay.
You have that Sefer, right?
I don't know.
I sent it to you.
Well, I'll check and see that I have it.
Okay, I'm sorry that we have this miscommunication, because you thought we were going forward here.
I thought, okay, that's fine. Sure.
The Rishash is a separate subject.
I understand.
So let's, you want to take a minute and see if you can find it?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, because we're going to make a siyum over here, and then we're going to move over to that.
I'll call you back and maybe we'll locate it.
Okay. Well, Mordechai? Whoops. To the Rishash, but let's work on some ideas. There's a lot of things missing in my learning, and that's what I'm trying to make up. In other words, like I told you before, I never learned this Inyan. I never learned the other one either. So when you come across these things, say for example in the Rishash Siddur, and you don't have a background on it, you can't use it. It's hard to use because you just don't know what they're trying to accomplish. So over here we're gonna get that, and we're gonna understand the background as much as possible, and then we'll be able to lay it onto the Siddur and try to make it work then.
Sounds good.
Okay, so let's go to number page Sadi base. And it says like this. We'll read the top again. So this is Rabbi Chaim Vital speaking. Venira Lanias Daiti Chaim HaKosiv. He's the writer. He's the scribe. Ki lekach b'shlosh esrei tikuni dikna de Erich Anpin. So when we're talking for this, we're talking about the 13 tikunim of the dikna of Erich Anpin. He says that actually, what are they? They are shlosh havayos v'chem shnaim esrei osius v'hakoilo. So he says that if you take 3 havayos, it's 12 letters, and then you put a kolel on it, it corresponds to the 13 tikkunim of the dikna of Erich Anpin. Umiluyehem, and then also there's a milui b'yudin. So there's the milui of yudim is where it's spelled yud vav daled k yud vav. That's spelling it out like that. So I think he's going to bring it to us over here in the tiv. V'yesh bechem gam kem shnaim aser yudin v'hakoilo. So if you just count up the yudin in the whole thing, that you'll see that it comes out to be 12, and then you have a kolel, you make it 13. So this corresponds to the Shlosh Esrei Tikuni Dikna de Erich Anpin. So all of this corresponds to that. So either you have 3 havayas, which is 12 plus a kolel, or else you have the spelling out of it plus the kolel, which is spelling out of it yud vav daled ke yud like that plus a kolel. Now let's see how that works. So then he said v'tesha vavim, but we just heard that previously we talked about. Then there are 9 vavim. Connected tesha tikuni dikna dezah, they correspond to the 9 tikunim of the dikna dezer Anpin. B'sheish hayin connected sheish tikuni nukva, and then there's 6 hayin. That we said all of this before. Lahoros, it is to show us what? Ki shorish kulam heim ba'arich Anpin, to show that all of the things that come out, they all have a root in Erich Anpin. B'shlosh esrei tikuni shabo, and all these 13 tikunim that are in his beard. All the brachos of the whole world come from this one place, actually the life force of the whole world. So this is a very, very interesting place. It's sort of like a place that I would like to go to, but it's like really advanced and how to handle it. Which is the concept of the yichud of the 13 different white places, the Resha de Erich Anpin, that are the Resha de Erich Anpin. The head of Erich Anpin is described in the Idris as completely white, with bundles of hairs stretching in such a way that there comes out to be, between the hairs and the original white, is a space. And those spaces are called the kivarti. Kivarti means white. So
Aren't there 3? Aren't there 3 heads of Erich Anpin?
So here we're talking about the Gugol to the top of the head of Erich Anpin.
Okay.
So yes, you're right about that. There are 3 heads of Erich Anpin. This is talking about the top of the head. Let's see how he says it better than me. So let's see how the Tiv will bring it about. We're on Kuf Samek Vov. So he says, and let me see if I got this right. Kuf Samek Zayin. Kuf Samek Vov. Here it is. Read the bottom of the column. Let me move it up a little bit. So it says, Va'atin nevar hamarchu zal hatam shebeshlosha esrei tikuni dikna nirmazim shlosh havayos beshutos. So what's to say? They just say Yud K Vav K 3 times. Ki heim shnaim aser osios. There are 12 letters there. V'kol havaya beshuta yesh bo arba osios. So each one of these, just explaining it out. Each havaya has 4 letters. V'shlosha havayos heim shnaim aser osios, and you can see how that multiplication works. V'makoilo, then you take its shorish. Also, hare heim shlosh eser osios, so that makes 13 letters then. Keneged Hashlosh Esrei Tikunei Dikna de Erich Anpin. So in somehow it could be drawn that there's an array that you see that the 13 letters line up to the Tikunim of the beard of Erich Anpin. Okay, so let's go on to Kuf Samak Zayin. Then he says, Ve'ela hashlosh havayos k'shehem b'milu yudin. So instead of just having them as what we call the pashut, which is just yud-ke, vav-ke, let's look them at an amilui. Yud vav daled ke yud vav yud valav ke yud, because the gematria is 72. But at any rate, take them and then just do 3 of those. So 1, 2, 3 of those. And then you count up the yudin. Yesh bechem shnei maser yudin. So you're going to find, once again, there's 12 yudin over here. So here, what he's describing in my mind is giving you a view of the incipients of anything we could call real or reality. It's right here at this place. It looks like these letters, or I haven't got the words to understand it completely. But this is, we're going very deeply into this. Yesh bechem shnei maser yudin. So now you see that the yudin are operating. They're operating the 13. V'makol chabish shlosh esrei yudin. So once again, he combines the basic count with the koilel, and he makes it into 13. And this is some kind of a basis or some relationship in the foundation of the beard of Erich Anpin. Keneged shlosh esrei tikuni dikna de Erich Anpin. That's what he said. V'kein yesh bechem tesha vavim. So then you can move down the line. Already in creation at this point, and you're looking at the head of Erich Anpin. Try to imagine what the head looks like, and he's saying that somehow you could distinguish these letters there. So and the letters are in the form of yud-ke, vav-kes, and they're milui. So he said, "V'kein yesh bechem tesha vavim." So then they have 9 vavim, and then he shows it to you again. Count the vavs, and you'll see that there's 9 of them there. So this goes Keneged Tesha Tikuni Dikna the Zer Anpin, and this corresponds to the 9 Tikunim of the Dikna of Zer Anpin. V'chein yesh bechem sheish hayin. So now we see that they have 6 hays, right? Now I'm just trying to think about the concept of 6 going with 9. You know, I put this vort on 9 months of gestation. 6 is not good enough. So 6 is not time for that. So anyway, he says 6. That's what I was thinking. Yesh bechem sheish hayin, and then you could count up the hayin like that. The Ramaz al sheish tikuni dikna de nukfa. So now you see in this is all in these names, in these letters, or I don't even know if the word shrosh. I guess this is he's showing us the shroshim of these letters, the letters manifest into the world and all the physicality. This is where it starts. This is the headwaters of the Mississippi River, right here. Okay, and then he says, V'lomdim mizeh. So now that we see all of these headwaters, Ki shorish kol tikuni de digna de Zer Anpin v'nukva hem nimshachim mishlosh esrei tikuni digna de Erich Anpin. And we see from this that everything has its incipients in this reality which is called Erich Anpin. And Erich Anpin really is reality, but you see it, he's describing Erich Anpin. Erich Anpin is these names, these three names of Yud-ke, Vav-ke. That's Erich Anpin. And then he has a beard, and it develops out, and he shows you how it develops out. Okay, because from him, you have this ara that goes out to Zer Anpin, and min azacha the nukva, and then for the azah to the nukva, commotion is boyer la'el, as we have explained. Okay, so that's the process. It goes from Erich Anpin and manifest in Zer Anpin, and it goes to the Nukva, and then from the Nukva, then you have all these zohars that you have to see how the Nukva handles us. Kishorish kulam heim be'Erich Anpin, let's see, that's where we're at, and then it said, V'keim bevor b'shar ruach HaKodesh. This shar ruach HaKodesh, like I said, it's a very heavy thing, and I'm looking to find, somebody try to teach me it, learn with me, stuff like that. It's really hard. Binyan yichud hivarti. So here we're talking about what? The inyan, the yichud of the yichud of the whitenesses. The yesh bilgulgulta, then this is your question, and on that part of the brain, or the head of Zer Anpin, which is called the gulgulta, Shuha Kesed de Erich Anpin, which is the Kesed, the crown of Erich Anpin, in other words, on top of his head. Shlosh Esrei Orchin Chivarim, there are 13 pathways of whitenesses. V'hem nirmazim b'shlosh havayos b'milu yudin, and also you have the same kind of that these pathways of whiteness. Whiteness means kindness again, and rachmanis, of all the things that you would want. He said, "V'hem nirmazim b'shlosh havayos b'milu yudin." So these havayos in their milui form, which are each one of them is 10 letters. Sheyesh b'chem shneim aser yudin, but if you count them up, then you count up the yudin that are in it. So he wants to say to me that the yudin are powerful in some way. So the yudin are very powerful. V'im hakoilo heim shlosh esrei yudin. So then there you come to 13 yudin. So then from the yudin, v'nimshach ha'ara mehem l'shlosh esrei ninim derich. They go into the hair of Erich he has 13 bundles of hairs. And in the Idra Rabbah, he describes what's, in the bundles. They're bundles inside of bundles. There's different words. Niming, and nimim is the basic word. I don't remember the rest right now. So at any rate, min havavim min hayim. So also you have this happening from the vavim and the hayim. B'yeshva vayoselo, they come out of these havayos. So all of these different things are shrashim that all come through this whiteness. The idea is how to deliver this whiteness into a world like ours, which is not right. So that's how the whole pattern goes. It goes from one letter to the next, that are all different. I guess it's from the Yud. He wants to say he leaves out the K, and he goes right away to the Vav, and then he goes to the final K again. So why does he leave out the middle K? So this is like, I think you can hear this. So it's because they're really subsumed in the beard itself. That's the answer he seems to have been given a few times. That Abba Ve'ima, which is the highest K, they represent an area that's surrounding the upper part up into the neck, so to speak, which surrounds the beard of Erich Anpin, and they're connected to it. So therefore, I'm thinking that we deal with, the whole idea here is to get it over to Zeir Anpin. And if they're in the chain, good. That's what it seems to me like that, my idea. Okay, now we have just a few minutes. If you'd like to start the other one, that was it. That was great. And I want to thank you very much. You made me very happy.
Oh, same here. Okay, we're ready to go.
Okay. All right, now get your seatbelt on, because really, if you have a little tea there, take a sip. That's what I'm going to do. Just try to get my brain back on this subject, because it's different. And I'm thinking how we're going to work this out and try to understand, because this is a much longer drush than the last one. Okay, so using the language, you're asking a question there, so that we, why didn't we go on with the Birchat? So I gave an answer on that, but the thing is, I'm only thinking about the drushos. I want to understand. So I just feel like if the more basic, the more background I have, the better chance I have to be able to use the Birchat Siddur. That's because I do know some basics, because what Rabbi Memram was able to tell me, but it takes a long time to digest it. You and I are supposed to have long life and health and keep going. That's what it takes. Okay, here we go. We're on page Kaf Hey, and we're continuing on in the Drush Vayavor, Drush Rishon. So I don't know how many drushes there are here. And they can get, into all kinds of good stuff. Drush Rishon Be'inyan Vayavor, Lama Nisakin, why was it put there? Umaka Vanasohi. And what is it trying to accomplish? What's the kavanah? So he says, Be'inyan Yud Gimel Midus Vayavor. Now in Yavor, is what we call Tachnun. So when you get to Yavor, Haneamarim Achar HaVidui Kenizke La'el, which is stated, which we do after Vidui, like we mentioned above, Kavar Nizbar La'el, it's already been explained above. Be'inyan Nesias Kapayim, the Birchas Cohanim. So we'll get a little review on that as we look down here in number Aleph in the Tiv. And the Tiv says, Bedrosh Zeh, Yis Ba'aro HaKavana Sheyesh B'Pasuk Shal Vayavor Hashem. So we want to get what's playing in this, in Tachnun. But notice they don't call it Tachnun, they call it Vayavor because there's something specific happening there. Sha'anu Omrim Achar Seder Amiris Avidui, so of course we do Avidui. Then you do Vayavor. Asher Bo Ne'emru LeMoshe, all of this was said to Moshe. Hashlosh Esri Midus Shal Rachamim, as we know, come down. So I just want to read this little line again because it's an orientation line, I think, for me. Ukanizka Le'el. So let me read again from Bedrosh Zeh. Yisba'arach HaKavana Sheyesh B'Pasuk Shel Vayavor. So now we want to talk about the Kavanas and Vayavor. Sha'anu Omrim Achar Seder Amiris Avidui. So he says that so he's saying, here's the Seder. First you say the Vidui, and then you're going to say Vayavor. So he says, Asher Bo Ne'emar LeMoshe, because in the Yavor is going to be those words that were said by Hashem to Moshe, Shlosh Esri Midus Shal Rachamim. So here all along that we've been learning about the beard of Erich Anpin, and now you could really tie it up. That is the midah of, but when they say the word midos, it's Zer Anpin who is the sheish midos. So therefore we say that we want Zer Anpin to have a full beard. That's what we were saying before, so that he will have the dominant midah will be the midah of Rachamim. That's what we're seeking here in this prayer. The Ganizka the Ale. That's the way I see it. Okay, so now this was we have a number base also. So he says, Ata Mevar Harav Zal Hadabarim Hanaasim B'Shas Miris Apasuk Shel Vayavor. So now what is Pshat over here? What are we trying to accomplish? So he said, V'achar kach ma na'aseh b'miris Yud Gimel Midus Shel Rachamim. And then what is actually accomplished, ma na'aseh, when you say the 13 midas of Rachamim? V'hinei b'miris pasuk Vayavor. So he says that when you're saying the pasuk of Yavor, Na'asim shnei to'elos b'mirasa. So you do two different things as you were saying it. Ha-to'elos, the first person, or a purpose, or a region, or let's say to'elos means goal. The first goal, he l'tzorach zivug Yisrael im Leah. Now that is a real mystery to me, so I need really explanation about how it is. Their Anpin is from the Chaz of the Mata. Excuse me, I said that wrong. Yaakov is from the Chaz of the Mata of Zer Anpin. And Leah, in relationship to Zer Anpin, is from the Chaz of the Mala. So they're in two different places. And here he says, so if you said like this is the way I try to understand it. At the nighttime, Leah goes, Rachel, or at least a major aspect of Rachel, goes down into Bia, into the lower worlds, to try to resurrect and help out. That's what sleep is all about. But Leah comes in and fills up the backside of Zer Anpin, and as a result, she's in somehow relationship with Yaakov, because the yichud during the week is between Rachel and Yaakov, not between Zer Anpin and the Nukva. It's the same idea, but it's a lower level. I don't know if you're following me, but going on. Okay, so she omedes ke'esak begova v'chazer shal Zer Anpin, that she's up above the Zer Anpin. So I say, trying to describe how it's confusing to me, how he could be down below the chazer Zer Anpin and she's up above, and how that yichud takes place up above. So it must be that he moves up. That's the only answer. He has to go to where she is, and she moves down. I don't know how it works. So that's the question. Now, so you see, we're in a different subject here. Then he said, "V'hatoelos ashniya." So what's the second goal? He say, "He letzorach tikun adikna shalazah," is in order to really full out the beard of Zer Anpin, so that he should be dealing with it, as I said, hanaasa be'esa miras yud gimel midu shal al yadam ischalkim anu lushashlim es adikna shal Zer Anpin asher yesh bo ke'es rak teisha tikunim. Okay, I got to translate that again. Let's read it again. He said, it's starting from the light print. The second purpose, he says, he letzorach tikun adikna shel zer anpin is in order to be able to build up the dikna ber anpin. And I'm thinking like this. If you're saying the 13 have to have some place to go. I think that's what he wants to say. He wants to say the 13 is really coming from a high place, and it has to get into zer anpin. And zer anpin, in order to receive it, he has to become a 13 too. So let's see how I can translate it. This is v'hato elas hashniya hi letzorach tikun adikna shel hazah. Hana'ase be'es amiris yud gimel midos sha'al yodam maschilim. It's a long sentence. Again, that are made be'es amiris yud gimel. When you say the 13 midos, sha'al yodam maschilim anu, that through them we begin lahashlim esadikna shalazer anpin. So that's what he says. He says, as you start to say Hashem, Hashem, Ke'el Racham v'Chanim, you're thinking in your mind, here's your kavanah, is that you are filling out the beard of zer anpin. You're causing it to go down because you need this beard to be full to be able to deliver the Hashem, Hashem, Ke'el Racham, like that. Asher chaviyesh bo ke'es rak tesha tikunim, that right now it has only 9 tikunim. But Hanata Mashlimim, also the Yud Gimel Tikkunim, said we're going to fiddle, and we finish it up, or what's it, Mashlim, we complete it to 13 Tikkunim, Kamosha Yavor B'Chemshech, as we're going to talk about. Apparently, he's going to touch it all up. V'ayin Od B'Chemshech, so let's see later on as we go on, the Yesh Od To Elas Shlishis B'Amiris V'Yavor, so there's a third purpose for saying Yavor. We'll get to that later, I guess. Okay, so now we're in a new place. So he just brought in all those ideas. Okay, so he just brought in all these ideas. So now he says, Yisbar b'tefilas amida yesh gimel hibukim bezun. This means, hibukim means huggings. 3 different levels of hugging. So he says, and we're going to discuss that. Now, what does this have to do with Yavor? So here we go. These are the drushos. So he says Nevor, and I wanted to say, I had in my mind to say to you that we have to understand that in the Shmona Esrei itself is an ultimate yichud, the romance of putting a zachar and nuk together. Basically, is bringing the shefa into the nuk, and sim shalom, we make a yichud between zachar and nuk. That's what happens. Then after that, though, that's what I know up to there. Then you and I learned Birchas Cohanim, which is really right after all of that. I can't place it yet. And then this. So, let's see what's going on. V'nivar ata inyan ze be'orach. Now let's get into this. We're going to explain this in depth. Again, these 3 huggings. Hine kavarn is boil la'el. This explained previously. Ki b'berchas atar gibor. There's in the Shmona Esrei we say atar gibor l'ram Hashem. That part. Naasa chibuk asmoli. It makes what you call the left hand, the hugging of the left hand. Of b'berchas atar kadosh, then you get to another atar kadosh v'simch shemcha kadosh. I don't know where it is. It's atar kadosh. Naasa chibuk. You're going to make a chibuk soy, the one in the middle, a different hugging. So there's a hugging. What was the first one? It was the left hand hugging. Now you're going to say it's the middle hugging. And then you're going to say, later we're going to say, or I don't know if he says it here, they're going to be a right hand hugging. But maybe we save that for the last. Let's see. Let's go over here and we're on number, hey. So that's a short piece. So it says, Ata mevarach harav ha'inyan B'yoser biur. He wants to get into it more. And he said, V'hu kafi masha kosev le'echu b'shar HaKavanah. This is what we wrote up above in the Shar HaKavanah. Shebebirchos ata gibor. And that bracha, ata gibor. Kasher omedes rochel b'tzad the smaller. When rochel is to the side of zer anpin, shel hazah, shehu keneged the hodazah. Now let's try to figure this out. It's her body, or his body, zer anpin's body. She is, let's read it again. So we haven't read this before because we're behind. Shebebirchos ad gibor, and that bracha kasher omedes rochel b'tzad hasmoli shal zer anpin. So in that bracha, gibor is lashon gevura. So gevura is on the left side. So we'll find that the yichud, we want to make a yichud between really, Zer Anpin and Rachel are Yaakov and Rachel during the weekdays. Shel Chazaz, she's on the left side, she's on his left. Shu Keneged Ahodazah. And what does it mean when you say that she's on his left side? Because she's short. So her hair, his leg, his left leg is where she's at. She's on his left leg. Vim came Nimsa, so we say that Rosha hu Keneged Hazro Hasmali Shalazer Anpin. So that's where her body is located. But she wants to say that the head is higher and it's located in some way next to the left left arm. So just take a second and picture that in your mind as they're trying to figure out his words. Sha'al zen ne'emer smali tachas roshi v'zen nikra kibuk small. The translation is, he says that Sha'al zen, that when we say that, let me see, V'im came nimsa sharosha sha'hu keneged hazroa hasmoli, that her head is next to his left arm. So I guess what he means to say is that she's hugging up against his left leg. The left arm comes down over that space with your hands. I mean, normally standing there, the hands would reach that place. So therefore, the hands are on top of her. So he says this row is, in other words, for the hands or the arm. That's a whole appendage he's talking about. Who can negate this row has smallish al zah. So therefore, it's right there next to the left arm of Zah. And so since that's her position, Shalzen Emar Smolotach the Roshi, so therefore it says that your left hand will be underneath my head. This is talking about the hug of Zer Anpin, putting his hand, so to speak, that's where she's next to his hand, so next to speak, or his arm, underneath her head and pulling her to him. V'zen Nikra Chibuk Small. So look, I'm not an expert in this, I'm just reading his words, okay? This is part of the reason why I need to learn these backgrounds, because there's the real secret to this, I believe, probably everybody believes, is knowing the narrative. You have to know the story. And the story is very involved. And so each time we learn the story, that's what it is for me, then it opens up other stories, other things to look at. So this is what he's doing a very good job, I think. I mean, what can I say? What can I say? Let's look at number above. So he said, Birchas Ata Kadosh. So, everybody knows the Birchas Ata Kadosh. Yomim Dezam Machabek Es Rachel. That's where the right hand hugs Rachel. Machabra, and he joins together im Gufo, and she joins him together with his body, Keneged Tiferes, Shehu Kavem Soy. Now let's read the whole thing again. He says, Ubebirchas Ata Kadosh. Now, when we have the Rishash Siddur, we can actually look at the Siddur a little bit just to get oriented with. I think it would be good for us. I have two of them, but they're beaten up. I hate to, do something with them. But the pages change. Like if you're going to learn with somebody, you have to have the same, text.
Edition, yeah.
Yeah, the edition, right? That's the word. Okay, Ubebirchas Ata Kadosh. So let's say Ata Kadosh. This is a place where the Yamin Dezam Machabek is Rachel. So I guess he has her in his left arm, and now he's bringing his right arm to her. That's the way I'm imagining this. Umachabra im Gufo, and he joins her together with his body, which is the part in the middle, Shuhu Keneged the Tiferes, which is the Tiferes, Shuhu Kavem Soy. V'zen Nikra Chibuk em Soy, and that's called the middle Chibuk. Okay, so that's what we got to right now. That's what we got to. So do you have any more energy to look at a little bit more? I have a little bit more prepared.
Well, he's got both his arms tied up. I mean, if there's going to be another chibuk, and it's going to be the chibuk of what's happening there?
Yeah, well, you're getting the idea. He's just giving us the idea. The idea is that there's going to be a yichud that's going to take place in Sim Shalom.
Right.
He may tell us about it here, because these drushas, when you, like people are saying, why aren't you learning the this or that with me? Or why don't you learn something like that? Well, all of these have everything in it. It's just place reference. It's true there are stories in the Otros Chaim that talk about creation, and they could really be looked at again. But and everything should be looked at again. That's the whole thing. It's so rich and it's tied together. It's all tied together with Hashem's hand. Well, let's look a little bit more. Can you do that?
Yeah.
Okay, so I think we're going to be on page Kaf Zayin.
There.
Okay, right. And let's try to use Yizboya Prati HaChibuk. Now we start to talk about the details of this hugging, V'hamshacha Na'asis Al Yada, which is taking place through what? Through this chibuk. So he says, V'hine inyan achibuk hazeh hu b'shem havaya de yudin da'av b'yamina. Now we just went through a whole thing at the end of the last one, where we was talking about these havayas. The Vaya Av is the one that's called of Yudin. Yud Vav Dalet Ke Yud. All the fill-ins are made with Yuds, and he counted them up, and he got 12 plus a koilel, and all that stuff. He did that 13. So it seems to me maybe we're still working with the same. These are the powers, really. So that's always on the right. Now that I don't really understand. He says that what we're talking about, this Av is going to be in the Chesed Zah. V'Av Smola. Then there's another Av. In other words, that's the Milui of Yudke Vavke in Yudin. Bigavura delay. So there's going to be another Milui on the left side. Shu Havaya Desag, which is a different Havaya though. This is Havaya Desag. So this has an aleph where you was a vav yud vav. Now it's going to be vav aleph vav. Is going to change it down 9. Imasara osiosa v'olam av, which is 10 letters, which come to the gematria of 72. Now there's a shroshim in here for all kinds of stuff that he's talking about here that I can see, that I've seen, that I just really don't know how to tie them together. Then he says there's an Av in the Emse Isa, which is also Havaya, but in its Milui form, it's of Olofim. It's called the Mad Olofim. So Im Echeshbon Hamaya Ba'atzmo, so if you take also, so you add those all up, so we'll see what he means by that, and you throw in with it, you add it together with the Yud Ke Vav Ke, which is the basic, what they call the Pashut, Olam Av, which would, I guess it comes out to 72 if you multiply it out like that. So these 3 different kinds of avs that we're talking about, that is what is clinging, hugging the nukva. Okay, so I think that you were asking this question, I don't know, you were asking what is the ultimate purpose of this hugging? And he's saying is the reproduction, is to bring Zoch and Nuk together. And in the weekday, it's Yaakov and Rachel. It's Yaakov and Rachel at the Netzach and Hod of Zer Anpin. But during the weekday, the Shabbos, it's higher. It's the whole Zer Anpin, I think. But I don't know that well. So that's something to look at. So anyway, so he says, Mechabeg Zal Nukva. So now going back to these 372s, this also is a hamshacha from a tipa. That comes from the muach of Zer Anpin, Panikra Chochma, which is called that is the muach called Chochma, and mispashet b'shlosh makomos, and it spreads into 3 different places. Haniskar, Shlosh Pamim Av Haniskar, which is mentioned. It's the 3 times of Av that's mentioned over here. I don't know if he has a little extra language in there. Okay, I think this is going to be a lot today. Let's look at the translation here from the Tiv. So now we're still working with these Yudin. He's given us a picture of the power of the letter Yud. I think really we have to believe that this actually has a manifestation here in this world some way. Maybe we could learn how to pray better. So anyway, here we go. So we have a kavanah during the tefillah, and the idea is that what's going on with this chibuk? Let's look at it. How does it work? The first time you hug, Na'aseh beBirchas Abos. That's made in the Birchas of Abbas b'Shem Havaya when you get to the name Havaya. Sheyesh bo arba Arba, that there are 4 the Yudin Shehem Begematria Av. Now, I think that's some misprint here slightly. Naasa bebirchos avos b'shem Havaya. The Sham, the Yesh Sham Shem Bo of Arba Yudin Shehem Begematria Av Kazeh. So he wants to say that in that place over there, in that first hug, you're going to have this Av, Yud K Vav K spelled like that. Behu b'kav yamim shehu b'chesed zah, and this is referring to the right arm of Zah. Then he says, v'hachibuk hasheni. Now the second time you're going to have a chibuk, hanaase ba'ata gibor. It's going to be in that place where you have ata gibor. Gibor is lush gevura. Hu chibuk b'kav small. This is a chibuk that takes place on the left line. Shuhu b'gevura d'zah shuhu av, but it's also an av. V'cheshbon zehu al yedei chibur shem havaya shuhu b'gematria sag. And this is what he wants to do. He wants to do this. He says you take this on the left arm is not av, it's sag now. So we want to take this havaya with the gematria sag, and he shows us the sag. It's sag yud k vav k like that. In misbar ha'eser osius, and then you count the 10 letters themselves. Ha'oila ag. Who comes to the number 73. But he says also, and this is something that in one of the Sharim of Otras Chaim is called Shar Rapach. It's about the nitzutzos that we mined out. There are 288 of them. It's a whole big deal. Over there they have a place of showing you how the nitzutzos work, because 4 times 72 is going to come out to be Rapach. So he says that here one of them could be even 73, not 73, no 72, Benikra Av, and it's called Av, Kevin Shava Av Imakoilo, because you can make it into Av if you add the kolol on it, so they say 73 is also like that. Now, what did he just say? He says on the left arm, I'm going to show you that there's a 72 here also. So the 72 is how? He says, well, left arm is composed of Sag. It's a different name. Now, we're applying the concept of an arm to it, right? But actually, it's not an arm, right? It's really these letters. It's a sag. But it's in somehow a form of something that the Rav says that we could use this idea to try to paint a picture for ourselves to understand where things are in relationship to each other. So now you have an Av on the right side and you have a Sag on the left side. So this is the second Hibuk. So he said V'hachibuk Ashlishi. Then let's go to the third Hibuk. It's going to have Shel Av of this Av Naase Bebirchos Atakadosh. So how do you make an Av over here? He says you make it like this: Hu Hibuk B'kavim Soy. Because this is the place where you hug the middle. In other words, you get the full hug here now. V'cheshbono avs, but it has a count of av. Sheyotza ayidecha b'kibur shem avaya. So how do you do this? You take the name Avaya, which is Yud K Vav K Shu B'gematria Ma. In other words, it's the milui of Aleph. So hu shem Havaya bolofim like this. That's what it looks like. So this is the basic building block of this 72. But Sirav Shel Havaya, then you add onto this 45, you add on the 26 of the name itself, Peshuta, Shehu B'gematria Ku, which is the Gematria 26. So 26 and 45, Ha'ola Yachad Ayin Aleph, it makes 71. Just like you had one with the Sag, you have to make it work with the 73. So you see, because this is the potential of a 73, but over here we see it's a 71. So it's all so the 73 and 71 are going to balance out in some way. V'ima koilo shava, so you take that and then you put a koilo on it, you make it into 72. Now that is a difficult idea, a deep one too. So now we had these four times Av that we mentioned here. Nishlam chibuk hazah, the nukva, because of the decha, Bo'ofaneho, in all of her different sides and all of her different ways. So that's part of that deal there, right there. You see that she is wrapped in these different names. Okay, there's just a little bit more here. This is number Yud Aleph. That's down at the bottom. Let's see what he says at Yud Aleph. He says, we're on page Kaf Ches, and we're going to stop here. Derek Sha'al Yado Nimshach HaChibuk Begimel Barachos Rishonos. So how is the method by which this chibuk takes place? Shlosha Av Hanal. It takes place because we have in mind. He says this is the Gavana. If you could do this, right? This is why it takes hours to be able to do, like one little thing. But it could be very root oriented. He says, Bebirchas Rishona Ayedel Shlosha Av, there's 3 Avs there. But he showed you how they have to be different. There's a regular straight Av, that's on the right arm. Then there's a left Av, but that one, you have to combine that with the 10 letters. And that will make another Av. And then you have the middle line, which is really only comes out to gematria 45 plus 26 is only 71, but we can add a kollel in there. I'm telling you all of these things, and I have no idea how the Rav understands the concept of kollel. He uses it here, he doesn't use it there. Or is it means the kollel means like a panemius, like it always has a panemius. Maybe we need to count it, maybe we don't. I don't know. I'm trying to figure out his rules. So anyway, it says Avanal, Meramur Shel Zarhan Nikra Chochmo, this moch that he got in Chochmo, which I think he means the mem of the side of Chochmo. El Gimel Makom Benukva Hu B'derek Shel Shachas Tipa. So then there's this concept also that what we're really trying to do here is bring this Tipa, which comes from the Most High, which is the little element of the Ein Sof Baruch Hu himself, has tried to bring it through the channels down into us. I think that's where he's going over here. And so, Mitzvah Hashem, that tomorrow I'm going to be on the road, so there's no guarantee. I can't make it at 8 tomorrow, I know. I don't know. Well, we can talk, so maybe it could be, so I have to go according to, let's see, tomorrow?
Yes.
No, today is my mind tomorrow. I'm just getting back to earth now. I'm leaving town today, yeah, and tomorrow we have a court date. So that's in the afternoon, and you could be a little bit nervous around. We'll have to see how it's going to go.
Well, I have to be in the middle tomorrow morning. Okay, so you say in the afternoon tomorrow, better for you?
No, it's not going to be better.
No, so tell me what.
So then maybe it's going to be the next day. That's it.
We're not learning tomorrow. Okay.
Well, I could learn maybe 9:30, but I think I said maybe 9:30.
I'll definitely go on. I'm on the road.
You're on the road then, so it's not going to work. So we had a lot to think about today anyway. So God should bless us. God should bless the world. Amen. Ken Yatzon.